The best way to make sure you can secure loads in the first 3 months, first of all, use Amazon Relay as a backup. So worst case scenario, at least you'll make a couple $100 that day. But I think just go into it with the mindset that you're going to spend 4 hours every single day calling brokers. So just commit 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. Just commit to calling brokers relentlessly, and just try to get a good paying load. Like that's really. That's going to be your best bet because there are loads out there. There are brokers. I mean, I did it. Everyone else has done it. Like there are brokers who will work with you in the first 30 days. And there are decent paying loads. Like you can get a load going 500 miles paying $1,000, paying $1,200. Like it's very doable. It's out there. You just need to put in the time and you just need to make the phone calls and talk to the brokers to be able to do it.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and...
Hey, this is Zach Pasquarello. Good, how are you? Is now still a good time to talk? Good, how are you? So what do you guys have going on? You said box truck, not a CDL tractor, but a box truck. Are you gonna drive the truck or are you gonna hire a driver? So you wanna drive for 1 year and then hire a driver, hopefully after that. And do you plan on dispatching yourself or do you wanna hire a dispatcher? That's smart. I always recommend if you're gonna drive to dispatch yourself because you're seriously gonna pay a dispatcher $500 a week and you could definitely do it yourself. So that'll help you save money and also just learn the industry a lot better too. I think you should do Amazon Relay and be looking at the load boards and working with brokers directly simultaneously. Amazon Relay is super easy, but it doesn't pay very well. So you could so the per mileage rate is not necessarily the issue because you'll be able to get $2, if not $2.25 per mile. That's not the issue, but the issue is the amount of miles you'll be able to get. So the way Amazon Relay works is you'll typically pick up at like 2 a.m. from the distribution center, and then you'll deliver to like 3 to 5 post offices at 6 a.m. And you only ever really get like 200 miles for a delivery. Like that's pretty average. Like there are obviously some different loads, but that's like those are the most consistent. That's the average load you're gonna get. Like 200 miles, paying $400, and you're gonna have 3 to 5 stops, and it's gonna take you 6 to 8 hours to complete. And so that's kind of almost your whole day right there. It's really difficult to do 2 Amazon loads in the same day. And until you get early access to the load board, like that's all you're gonna be able to do. So you're only really gonna be making like $400 to $500 a day, which is fine. But if you are looking to go over the road long haul for the DAT load board, you can make $1,000 a day driving 500 miles. So that's your better bet for making more money. So Amazon Relay, that's what I mean by, it's good, but it doesn't pay that well. The best way to make sure you can secure loads in the first 3 months, first of all, use Amazon Relay as a backup. So worst case scenario, at least you'll make a couple $100 that day. But I think just go into it with the mindset that you're going to spend 4 hours every single day calling brokers. So just commit 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. Just commit to calling brokers relentlessly, and just try to get a good paying load. Like that's going to be your best bet because there are loads out there. There are brokers. I mean, I did it. Everyone else has done it. Like there are brokers who will work with you in the first 30 days, and there are decent paying loads. Like you can get a load going 500 miles paying $1,000, paying $1,200. Like it's very doable. It's out there. You just need to put in the time and you just need to make the phone calls and talk to the brokers to be able to do it. So there's no like magical answer. It's just you have to spend 4 hours every single day cold calling brokers and researching the load boards. And it's not just the DAT load board. Like you can also get connected with like TQL and CH Robinson. Like they have load boards directly on their website. XPO Logistics also has a load board directly on their website. So don't just rely on the DAT load board. Leverage also like the broker specific load boards. CH Robinson and XPO, also Flock Freight, they have a load board directly. So here's what I always recommend. The first month you might you might take a couple bad paying loads. And that's just the nature of the beast. But what you can do is every single time you book a load, you're going to work with a new broker and you're building that relationship. So just be very professional, be a very good customer to that broker and get their email address and just write down their information. And if you do that every single day, every single load you run, like very quickly, all of a sudden you're going to have a list of like 30, 40, 50, just continuously growing a list of brokers who you've worked with and their contact information. And then all of a sudden, you have a list of 50 emails and 50 brokers and 50 phone numbers. And that's who you can reach out to directly. And you can just contact them, say, hey, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, looking for a load. Do you guys have anything? And then eventually, as you become, an older authority and you work with more brokers, people will start reaching out to you. Like if you consistently go from Atlanta to Chicago and Chicago to Memphis, like on a regular basis, brokers typically work in regions. So those specific brokers who work those lanes, they're going to start reaching out to you. I mean, the depreciation of your vehicle is probably the biggest takeaway. You can take bonus depreciation or some type of accelerated depreciation or Section 179 for your vehicle, and you can expense the entire cost of the vehicle in the year that you purchase it. So that's a huge tax benefit. But I always caution against taking accelerated depreciation or even Section 179. Because if you're looking long term, like that's a very short term solution for this year's tax liability. But if you take Section 179 and you depreciate the entire value of the vehicle this year, then the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're not going to be able to take any depreciation on that vehicle. So you're just like digging yourself a hole basically, and you're not gonna have an answer for next year if you take it all this year. So you could try to find another loophole next year, but definitely depreciation is the best. So because basically you could take out a loan for the vehicle, so you're not spending cash on the vehicle, and you can almost like take more depreciation than you're actually spending in cash on the vehicle. So you can take out, you can reduce your tax liability by more than you're actually spending in real cash. Would you have a backup dispatcher? So dispatchers don't sure, you can have a relationship with a dispatcher, but it's going to be tough because he's not really going to work with you like one off. For him to spend 2 to 4 hours to find you one load paying $1,000 to get you out of San Antonio, Texas, because you're stuck in Texas. I would be surprised. Any good dispatcher probably isn't going to want to do that, because there's like an onboarding process and a lot of paperwork that goes into it. And so dispatchers are really looking for like a long-term consistent customer. And there's nothing a dispatcher can do that you can't do. The only reason that I hired a dispatcher, the only reason that anyone would hire a dispatcher is because they just simply don't have time to dispatch their own truck. Like it's not a complicated process. It just takes time. So I can't really ever foresee a situation in which a dispatcher will be able to find you a load whenever you can't, except for maybe the first 30 days. But I think you're better off just spending extra hours grinding and just working harder and trying to find the loads yourself instead of relying on another dispatcher. But I mean, with that being said, I can certainly give you contact information of a good dispatcher that I've worked with just to have in your back pocket, just in case, all else fails. What would I do differently? I never would have gotten a box truck in the first place. I just would have gotten a CDL tractor from the very beginning, just because they make so much more money. I think everyone has the same thought that I have, and from what you described, it kind of sounds like you have a similar thought, like, oh, I'm just going to get started with a box truck, and then as I learn the industry and as I get more comfortable, then I'll slowly graduate to a CDL tractor. But in all reality, in my opinion, like a CDL tractor is actually easier than a box truck, because the loads pay more, they're more conventional, there's more loads, and they're easier to find. But apart from that, I paid my driver way too much whenever I got started. I paid him 55 cents per mile, and that just wasn't realistic. So I would either, whenever you do hire a driver, either pay them percentage of revenue, like 25, 30%, or pay them like 40 or 45 cents per mile. And then third, I got an old truck. I got a 2010 International box truck, and it's been okay. But I think if I can go back in time, I would have bought like a 2017, 2018, like a newer truck, just because you're going to spend less on a monthly basis in repairs and maintenance. And what really kills you, not only are you spending more on maintenance, but you're losing revenue on downtime. So like normally you'd make $5,000 a week, but now you're spending $2,000 to get fixed, and you're not making $5,000. So right there's a $7,000 loss basically from missed revenue and repairs expense. So I would buy as new and as good of a truck as you financially can. Yeah, so for fuel cards, I actually think I made a pretty big mistake in the very beginning, and I went with Fuelman because they were versatile and because I could go to a lot of different gas stations, but I was receiving basically zero discount from the Fuelman fuel card. Very easy to use, but not cost effective. What I would recommend, are you going to use a factoring company? Yeah, so I would recommend, I mean, OTR and RTS, they're very similar, pros and cons for each, but what I would do if I were you, and this is what I'm doing now, so I'm done using the Fuelman card, and I'm using the fuel card associated with my factoring company. A big reason for that is because they give you an additional 0.5% discount on your factoring, and the fuel card, I mean, all fuel cards are pretty similar. So RTS, I know they partner with Pilot Flying J, like they literally just use the Pilot, like if you just get the Pilot Flying J fuel card, then that's the same card that RTS will give you. I don't know about OTR, but I would go with whatever fuel card is used by your factoring company, and having one fuel card is probably best, but I understand you can't always go to a Pilot or a Flying J. So I would say no more than 2 fuel cards. Maybe get a Loves card and then a Pilot Flying J card. Because once you start having more than 2 cards, it just kind of gets complicated. But TA, Pilot, Flying J, and Loves, those 3 truck stops are pretty much all over the country, everywhere. So you'll probably be fine with 2 of those 3. I actually use TAFs, but I don't recommend them. But from what I understand, it seems like all of these factoring companies have pretty much the same rates, the same factoring rates. But TAFs has a really bad reputation for making it very difficult for you to get away from them, which is just kind of scary when you think about it. I've heard really good things about RTS, and I've heard some good things about OTR. So I don't think, I've heard people want to leave RTS. I've heard people want to go to OTR and vice versa. I've heard people want to leave OTR and go to RTS. Like, I think if you pick one of those 2, you'll be fine. Any box truck dispatcher who's telling you they're going to dispatch your truck for less than 8%, I would not trust them. So I talked to an RTS representative, and she told me their prices, and these were the exact same prices as TAFs. Basically, it was if you get their fuel card, they'll charge you 3%. If you don't use their fuel card, they'll charge you 3.5%, and that's just getting started. Obviously, the more trucks you have, the more volume you have, the better discount they'll give you. But starting out, TAFs and RTS had the exact same rate, 3% and 3.5%. I don't see how anyone could give you a better rate. The only other way someone's going to give you a better factoring rate, or the only other different factoring rate you can get is if it's non-recourse. Non-recourse factoring means, and I forget, there's a couple companies that do it, but they typically charge 4%. And what non-recourse means is that if the broker doesn't pay, then you're fine. So non-recourse means that, just because the broker doesn't pay, you still get to keep your money and the factoring company deals with it. That's not how TAFs or RTS operate. They have recourse, which means if the broker doesn't pay in 120 days, then TAFs and RTS will take the money back from you. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at your accounts receivable aging report, and you're seeing like, okay, this broker hasn't paid in 30 days, hasn't paid in 60 days. Like once brokers get to like 45 days, I'm reaching out to them directly saying, hey, what's going on? Why haven't you paid? Where's the money, basically? Because you are still ultimately responsible for those accounts receivable. The invoicing is done by the factoring company, and the factoring company will put like a UCC lien on your company, and it's kind of scary to think about, but like they actually own all of your accounts receivable. So in order for me, like I can't even work with a different broker and get paid directly because if TAFs finds out about it, like I'll get in trouble because TAFs technically owns all of my accounts receivable. I don't know if RTS or OTR is like that. Maybe that'd be a good question to ask them. Be like, hey, just because I sign up with you, can I still get paid directly by the broker, or do I have to factor everything with you? But with TAFs and probably other factoring companies, you can't even go directly to the shipper, so you can't even invoice them directly. But that's also kind of nice because your factoring company will handle that for you. So all you need to do is you just send your factoring company the rate confirmation and the signed bill of lading, and then they will generate the invoice. They'll send it over to the broker. They'll collect the money. They should do all of that for you. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good that not all the invoices have to go through them. A lot of brokers, almost all brokers, offer quick pay. So you could technically not even go through a factoring company and just do quick pay with every single broker. And a lot of brokers offer quick pay for like less than 2% sometimes. It usually comes in like 5 to 7 days. It's usually just like an ACH direct deposit for the quick pay. But there are workarounds for not working with a factoring company. A box truck with a sleeper, the benefits would be that you don't have to pay your driver to stay in a hotel. Because right now, I'm paying $75 every night for my driver to stay in a hotel, and it's killing my profits. So if you can spend an extra $20,000 on a sleeper cab in your box truck, then you'll save, $375 every single week, which really adds up over the course of a year. Because technically drivers are not allowed to sleep in their truck if they don't have a proper proper sleeper cab. A lot of guys do it, but it's against the rules. So if you're gonna hire a driver, I wouldn't set my business up, telling my drivers to sleep in the truck if it's against the rules. That just doesn't seem like a good way to start a business, in my opinion. The liftgate is not used as often as I thought it would be used, but it's become an expectation from almost all of the brokers. Sometimes brokers won't even mention it. It's just assumed that all box trucks have it. So if you don't have it and you book a load and the broker doesn't say anything about a liftgate, you're kind of screwed if you get to the receiver and you don't have a liftgate. Yeah, almost. I would probably say twice a month I use my liftgate. So it's really not that often, but if you don't have it, it can be obviously kind of a situation. The only issue is that it adds a lot of weight. So it might not be a bad idea to maybe look at a truck without a liftgate. I don't think it's completely necessary. You can definitely find loads without having a liftgate. And it also, because those things weigh a lot, so you can probably haul an extra, 1,000 or 2,000 pounds if you don't have it. Man, I think you should get a liftgate. Because also, if you ever want to sell the box truck, it's going to be a lot more valuable if it has a working liftgate. I think you should get it. I think it's worth the $2,000 or $3,000. If you want, I can just run down through my list of just things that I typically talk about, see if anything makes sense to you or, good information. Let me just pull up my notes here real quick. So just real quick, you already have your LLC, you already applied for your authority, right? Do you already have your EIN? So for credit cards, you also have 3 other options. I always recommend Chase, Capital One, and American Express. And you can get their business credit card, and you can get probably a pretty significant credit limit for the first 12 months and 0% interest. So for me, with American Express and Chase, I got $8,000 credit limit, and Capital One, I got $2,000 credit limit. And the best part is 0% interest for the first 12 months. So that right there, that's $18,000 of 0% interest credit limit that I was able to use in the first 12 months to kind of finance my spending. I think that's perfect. I always say between 10 cents and 20 cents per mile. 20 cents if you get an old truck, 10 cents if you get a new truck, somewhere in the middle if you get, somewhere in the middle. So if you're getting like a 2016 or a 2018 truck, probably 15 cents per mile is perfect. But I had a 2010 box truck and I spent almost exactly 20 cents per mile for the first 6 months. I spend about $300 to $500 every month to get my oil changed. And then typically, I got a chip in my windshield that costs $350 to repair. If you have to get a new tire, that's probably going to be like $300 or $400 to get a new tire. Things add up very quickly. But yeah, I guess if you figure you're driving, 2,000 miles a week, that's probably like $300 a week that you're gonna budget for maintenance. So that's $1,200 a month. So figure 400 of that is going to your oil change every single month, and then an extra $800 for just miscellaneous wear and tear. That's probably a pretty good budget number. Yep, that's what I'm paying too. Yeah, I think the dash cam is worth $30 a month. Just in the event of an accident, I'm sure it'll pay dividends to have that footage just in case something happens. I recommend you get an Easy Pass. Are you on the East Coast or West Coast? Yeah, I recommend you get an Easy Pass. And the reason why you should do it sooner rather than later is because it takes a couple weeks for the transponder to come in the mail. And that way, going through toll roads, you won't have to pay. You won't have to worry about getting the letter in the mail. You can just put your Easy Pass transponder up on your windshield and go right through the toll roads. Probably could have avoided that if you had an Easy Pass. Okay, so have you gotten your DOT medical physical? Do you have insurance? Yes. So the hours of service actually took me quite a long time to figure out because it's kind of complicated. So basically, you can only drive for 11 hours and you can only work for 14 hours per day. And what that means is you have to take a 10-hour break every 24 hours. So whenever I was first getting started, I heard, I can work 14 hours per day. So that means if I take a 2-hour break during the day, then that doesn't count against my 14 hours, but that's not true. So like what I wanted to do basically was like drive for 5 hours, chill out for 3 hours, drive for 5 hours, hang out for 4 hours, and then like kind of just cycle that way. But you can't do that. So as soon as you start working this morning at 7 a.m., no matter what, at 9 p.m. you have to stop. 14 hours later you have to stop, and you have to take your 10-hour break. And then you can only drive for 11 of those 14 hours every single day. The one thing I will say though is that if you do take a 2-hour break during the day, you can go off duty and you can save your 60 hours for the week. So you get 14 hours per day, but you also only get 60 hours per week. So I don't know, let me see, 14 times 5, that's what, 55? That's 70. That's 70 hours. So you can't even actually work for 14 hours for 5 straight days. So after you've hit 60 hours, you have to reset. And that's where it's a 34-hour reset. So you can drive, 11 hours for 5 days in a row. That's 55 hours. And then you can drive an additional 5 hours on Saturday. All of a sudden you're at 60 hours. And you have to stop working for 34 hours, consecutive 34 hours. And I always recommend take your reset on the weekend if you can. It just makes the most sense. Saturday night to Monday morning is probably the best time to reset. But with your keep truck and ELD, there's an option for personal conveyance and also yard move. So look into those two features. You can essentially move your vehicle without being on duty. If you're just conducting a yard move, like at the shipper or the receiver in the parking lot of the warehouse, or if you're doing a personal conveyance, if you're just moving the truck like for personal reasons, then it won't affect your on-duty status. So look into that whenever you set up your keep truck and ELD. In terms of cash that you should have whenever you get started, I would expect to pay $500 for your registration. I would expect to pay $2,000 for the initial inspection by your mechanic. So, and that's a pretty high estimate, but you're gonna spend, a couple $100 if nothing's wrong with the truck, and then you're gonna spend a couple $1,000s if things are wrong with the truck. So just go in with an open mind, assuming that you're gonna spend between, $500 and $2,000 on your initial inspection with the mechanic. Best case scenario, it's only a couple $100. Worst case scenario is a couple $1,000. Pretty much every time I go to the mechanic, it's like at least $500 at this point. Even if I just go in for a basic oil change, they always find something else that needs to be replaced. And I just got my truck serviced and it cost me $1,900. The nature of the beast. We just spend a lot on maintenance. And then your insurance, you're gonna have to pay a pretty hefty down payment on your insurance. So be prepared to spend, a couple $1,000s right away to get your insurance policy in place. And then afterwards, your monthly premium is probably only going to be between $1,000 and $1,500, but you're probably going to have to spend $2,000 or $3,000 in the very beginning for your down payment. So you can see here, $2,000 there, $2,000 here, like the cash quickly adds up. And that's why I always recommend start with $10,000 cash plus the down payment on your truck. And then do you already have the UCR and the BOC3 filing? Yeah, UCR should only cost $65. BOC3 should only cost $25. It should be illegal to do something like that. Well, now you know for next time. I think there's one that you have to, I think it's UCR you have to register annually, and BOC3 is like every 2 years, or it might be flip-flopped, but you can do it on your own, like straight from the website, like the UCR.gov website. That's not the exact website, I don't know what it is, but you can do it on your own very easily for very cheap. The other thing, pallet jack. You're definitely gonna need a pallet jack, and you're gonna need ratchet straps. I never got a load bars, but I've heard people use load bars. I just have 6 ratchet straps. Make sure you get the ratchet straps that have a 10,000 pound break point. And I bought a brand new pallet jack for $300 from just like a local equipment depot. Don't even waste your time trying to find a used pallet jack, because those things get so beat up so fast. I recommend just get a brand new one. It's only $300. Oh wow, maybe they've gone up over the past year. I got mine for $325, I think, but maybe they're a little bit more now. You need a first aid kit. You can get one on Amazon for like 10 or 15 bucks. Like per DOT compliance, you need to have a first aid kit, a fire extinguisher, and triangles. Anytime you break down on the side of the road, always make sure you put up triangles behind your truck. And the fire extinguisher, make sure it's charged. The first truck I got, I looked at the fire extinguisher like after 2 months of driving. and I realized the thing was empty, like it wasn't even charged. So if you ever get pulled over and the DOT officer inspects your fire extinguisher, that'd be something silly to get dinged on a safety audit. So make sure your fire extinguisher is properly charged. And then door magnets. So you have to have your company name, your DOT number, and your MC number on the side of your truck. Both sides, left and right. You got two options. You can spend $300 or $400 and get some fancy logo and decal applied directly to your truck, or you can spend $60 at vistaprint.com and get two magnets, two white magnets with black letters, and just keep it simple. Just get 2-inch letters of all the information you need. And the reason I love the magnets is because you can peel them on and off very easily. So if you get a different truck, or if you're renting a truck, or you buy a second truck or whatever, you can just take it off. Those decals you have to like scrape off, and they're expensive and just hard to deal with. No, I mean, I've been running for a year and these magnets haven't gone anywhere. Vistaprint.com. You don't need to worry about IFTA, International Fuel Tax Agreement. You don't need to file IFTA. You don't need to file the heavy vehicle use tax, and you definitely don't need to get drug tested. Those are all CDL things. And then you also, I've heard mixed opinions about this, but from what I understand, from my experience, you do not need apportioned plates. You can just get a regular license plate. And then also, if you have your MC number, if you have your DOT authority, you should not, it depends on the state, but I know in Pennsylvania this is the case, you should not need to pay sales tax on the purchase of your truck. So, maybe when you get to your DOT, when you register your vehicle, or when you take, transfer the title, mention that and see if you can get away from paying sales tax on the purchase of the truck because you have a DOT authority. Yeah, so that should save you a couple $1,000s. Are you definitely getting that $750? Oh, you already bought it? Try to find a local diesel mechanic if you haven't already. Did you already get the truck inspected, like a DOT inspection? I always recommend, and I always try to go to the same mechanic on a regular basis, just to build that relationship with them and just to build that trust. That way, it's always nice to have that go-to person, and the mechanic will start treating you a little better the more you come. Like if you're just coming once and never going back again, they might rip you off, or they might not service your truck in a timely manner. But if you're a repeat customer, I think you'll get better customer service from the mechanic. That's just from my experience. So I would try to find, a reputable, reliable, local mechanic. And then if you got to get your truck towed, it's always a nightmare. It's going to cost $350 right off the bat, even if you're just going 2 miles down the road. That kind of shocked me whenever my truck broke down. It's going to be at least $350 no matter where you are. No matter how far you're going, that's like the starting cost to tow your truck. So just be prepared. Anytime you break down, and I don't know if you plan on going over the road or staying local, but like in the beginning, you want to save as much money. You want to cut as many corners and cut costs as much as possible. But seriously, like whenever you take it to the mechanic, just if they recommend you fix something, I would seriously get it fixed, because the last thing you want is to break down 1,000 miles away from home and have to have some random mechanic fix it, and you're going to have a load, you're going to be loaded, you're going to have to tell the broker you're going to be 2 days late. Like, just do whatever you can to get your truck properly maintained and repaired and fixed at home. That way you got something reliable going down the road when you're thousands of miles from home. And seriously, like the key to success for this is to negotiate with brokers. Like all things are constant. Like the cost of your truck, the cost of diesel, whatever, that goes up and down. Nothing you can do about that. The biggest thing you can control is negotiating with the brokers. So if you can negotiate with them and if you can find a good load, a good rate, then you are set. Like you'll be able to thrive in this business if you can negotiate properly with the brokers and build that relationship and get those good paying loads, because that's the key. There's a million loads out there paying $1.50 a mile, but you're gonna go out of business real quick if you book loads for $1.50 a mile. So you got to work extra hard to find that $2.25, $2.50 a mile. Just every decision you make, just try to back it up with the data and the analytics. So just constantly be running your cost per mile analysis. I don't know if it's going to be you. I know you said your wife is an accountant, so maybe she can help you with the numbers in the Excel spreadsheet, but just constantly be looking at your cost per mile, know exactly how much it costs to run that truck. That way when you go to talk to brokers, there's no way, like it cost me $1.60 to run my truck. I'm not taking this load for $1.70. Like I need $2 a mile to even break even, to even make money. So just make sure you're leveraging the data, looking at the numbers and constantly checking to make sure you're staying profitable, because there's so many moving pieces, so much money coming in, so much money going out. Like it's really hard to know if you're actually profitable if you're not really deep diving into the numbers. So just make sure you pay attention to the numbers, and on a weekly basis, just analyze how much money you spent, how much money you made. Just make sure you're profitable. Well, your cost per mile changes drastically depending on how much your truck is and the cost of diesel, but I can pull up my spreadsheet real quick, and like a really average cost per mile for me is like $1.60. But that's with me paying my driver. So, like your dispatch fee, your factoring fee, your maintenance, your insurance, the cost of your truck, that all goes into your cost per mile. So like on average, it's probably going to be between like $1.50 and $1.80. That's going to be your sweet spot for your cost per mile. And so that's why you need to make, $2.25 a mile to be profitable. But in order to figure out your cost per mile, it's super simple. Just pick a time frame, whether it be 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month, and find out how much money you spend on everything on any given week or any given month. So, you pay monthly for your insurance. You're paying $1,000 a month for your insurance. Just divide that by 4, and all of a sudden you know how much you're paying per week for insurance. So just take all of your weekly expenses, that's your total cost, and divide that by the total number of miles that you plan on driving or you did drive, and that's your cost per mile. It's very simple. Just total cost divided by total miles.